Any self-proclaimed fan of the Friday the 13th films, like myself, would do themselves a service to check out the films of Mario Bava, as well as his mentor, Riccardo Freda. Though Murder Obsession came out the same year as Friday the 13th Part 2, the Italian filmmakers of the 70s had already influenced the stalk and slash genre by mixing POV shots, unseen killers stalking moral-addled teens, and a variety of kill tools. Though Halloween is often called the godfather of the slasher film, I feel it's extremely American-centric to not recognize Bava's A Bay of Blood, aka Twitch of the Death Nerve, released in 1971, and the one I covered in the last Giallo shots, as defining the subgenre and the myriad of Italian Giallo films that were released afterwards. Though not without its faults, Murder Obsession is a strong representation of the Giallo genre, with scares both hokey and genuine. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below, share this video with all of your social media addicted pals, click subscribe to this channel, and ring that bell for notifications. Murder Obsession, aka FOLLIA, OMICIDA, Murder Syndrome, Fear, The Wailing, Satan's Altar, and Unconscious, was released in 1981. It was directed by Riccardo Freda, and written by Riccardo Freda, Antonio Cesare Corti, Simone Mizrahi, and Fabio Piccioni. Stefano Patrizzi plays Michael Stanford, the son of a composer who was accused of killing his father as a child in defense of his abused mother. The film opens as Stanford, an actor, gets a little too much into his role as a strangler as he strangles his co-star for real on the set. Barely escaping with her life, the actress doesn't seem to mind Stanford's method acting, though Stanford is visibly unsettled. A few days at his mother's Gothic mansion might do the trick to snap him out of his funk, so he brings Deborah, his lovely assistant, played by the nubile Silvia Dionisio, along for a little vacation. Immediately there's a sense of tension between mother, played wickedly by Anita Strindberg, and son. On top of it all, there's an eerie butler lurking around, played by Torso's John Richardson. When Stanford's camera crew and supporting cast show up to join in on the fun, the bodies start piling up. All fingers point to Stanford, who mopes around most of the film, and he finds himself thinking he may in fact be the killer. But then again, there are other culprits about, and that doesn't explain the horrifying dreams and visions Deborah is having in her sleep. Though it might seem like a big bag of cliches in the description, at the time this was probably interesting stuff. The mixture of haunting dreams and a stalking madman is reminiscent of both Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street series. There's even a scene where a damsel is attacked in the bath, and her friends say it's most likely a dream, a la the first A Nightmare on Elm Street film. Deborah's waking nightmare walking through the catacombs of the mansion and running into rubber-masked monks and even more rubbery giant spiders might be laughable compared to today's FX standards, but still, Freda knows how to amp up the chills with extended POV shots, misleading red herring culprits lurking in the shadows, and imaginative FX shots such as boot prints made in dust suggesting a walking ghost. Freda handles all of these with a capable hand and a steady camera, even though at times these twists and turns leave you wondering if any of this is really happening or just all a complex and weird fever dream. Stefano Patrizzi is okay in the lead, but he's extremely schlubby throughout the film, feeling sorry for himself due to his fractured mental state and his elusive memories. Silvia Dionisio is much easier to watch as she, at times, gives off a Susan George vibe and sheds her clothes quite a bit. Apparently the film was a terror to make, according to some of the actors who complained about shortcuts made for effects, such as real knives and live chainsaws used instead of props, and director Riccardo Freda was known to be quite the terror himself to his actors and crew. Still, Freda delivers a strong gothic vibe as the cast wanders and dies in the corridors and caverns around the mansion. He also doesn't forget the gore in a couple of scenes, including a pretty gnarly chainsaw to the throat sequence. As always, the music in these Giallos are ever important, and though Franco Manino didn't really do a lot of horror Giallos or horror soundtracks,
he does provide a nice gothic tone to the entire film. Mannino also did the scores for Un Monstro e Mezzo, Hercules Prisoner of Evil, The Ghost, Lust of a Vampire, and Beat the Devil. And though he wasn't credited, Carlo Maria Cardido helped Mannino out with the music. He did the scores for Troll 2, as well as Body Puzzle, The Crawlers, The Non-Forgettable Pieces, Night Killer, The Amazing Beyond Darkness, another underrated gem, Absurd, Hitcher in the Dark, Curse to the Bite, among many, many other horror films from the 80s. Themes of sex and death abound in Murder Obsession. A couple is stalked and killed while making love on the riverbank. Stanford's relationship with his mother exudes incest from the get-go, with the implication of it ever increasing throughout the film, reminiscent of Psycho. Though it seems like a mishmash of a lot of themes in some pretty popular horror films, again, in 1981, when this film was made, it was all ripe territory to be mined. The ending of the movie is quite a downer, but it tonally keeps with what has gone before. Murder Obsession may have some goofy effects and a dreamy, off-kilter tone, but it does do the slasher aspect right and is worth checking out for that.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed. Live the life that you are meant to be. Live inside